Hey y'all, welcome to Nah But For Real, where besties who heal together keep it real together. I'm Ali, and this is my co-host Jay, and we are so excited to be here with you for another episode on NBFR. And so make sure you are following us on all social media platforms, from TikTok to YouTube, even on Pinterest. It's coming soon. Be prepared. And so before we go ahead and get into our topic, we do want to go ahead and start off with an icebreaker, like we always do. And today's icebreaker being, what are some of the most nostalgic commercials you remember growing up? And coming up with at least three.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here are mine. I watched a lot of, like everybody else, watched a lot of Nickelodeon growing up and watched a lot of Disney growing up. But Nickelodeon, hands down, undefeated best commercials when you're a kid. Best commercials. So one I remember was Zoo Pals. They were like animal plates that had cute little animals on them. And it was like something, Zoo Pals makes eating fun. I've been singing that all weekend just when I was thinking about the question. So Zoo Pals is number one. My second one, I'm sure everybody remembers this, was Baby Bottle Pop. Anything that had a catchy jingle, you had me. I'm still thinking about it 20 years later. So, but Baby Bottle Pop, even though I hated them things, they were nasty as hell to me. I've never liked them. I don't like anything powdery, and like I've never liked the concept of eating sugar, even as a kid. Not my thing. But cute commercial. And the third one was, when you start keeping Nickelodeon on too late at night and they start going to like George Lopez and stuff. Education Connection.
Get connected for free.
Still came on because it's living in my head rent free. I thought it was still going, but no, apparently they got cut off. Yeah, that was my shit. That was my jam back in the day.
Yes, I'll start off with that. I actually have that on my list too. Get connected for free, free educated connection. And then I also have the Chia Pet commercials. Like that's just, I just can't get that out. Like, I always wanted a Chia Pet. I think I got one when I was younger and it didn't work, so I was like super disappointed.
I got one when I was older and it still didn't work.
Okay.
I got a Golden Girls one like 3 years ago. I tried.
So it's either us or it's them.
Giving them, but the commercial was good.
Right. And then one that if you were from the Chicago area, it might be familiar for you, but it's like 773-202 Luna.
Yes.
So
was Luna a mattress commercial?
It was full. I think it was like floors. Like, wasn't it with the floors? You would see like the carpet get ripped up, and then like the floor line would be like go on the ground.
I remember is the song. I don't know why I can't remember what they did.
Yeah, me neither.
Probably was floors. Why would they sell mattresses only? Well, I don't know. If y'all are from Chicago and y'all remember, put it in the comments because I can't remember what they did, but they made a catchy jingle. It's funny that we chose all commercials because was the question only about commercials?
Yeah, it was about commercials.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm like, it's funny that we only chose commercials, but okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so not only can you give us a hand and help us remember what 773-202 Luna promotes, but go ahead and drop in your nostalgia commercials that just can't get it out your head. It's rent free. Okay, and so outside of commercials, we can just dive into TV, nostalgic TV shows. Have you found yourself watching any nostalgic shows lately?
Yes, that's actually like one of my biggest coping things. Like I'm somebody, I will watch nostalgic TV. I've never stopped. So it's not like I stopped at one point when I was a kid and switched to adult TV. Like if you grew up with a Black parent, you probably were already watching adult TV. Right. Let's be honest. So I was already watching Girlfriends and the Parkers and, in general. So that for me is nostalgic. That was kid friendly for me, BET. But I've gone back and watched the Parkers, and I've gone back and I've watched what did I say? The Parkers and Girlfriends. And I watched those when I was younger, and those are probably the two most nostalgic. Other than I thought about like That's So Raven and Zoe 101. I just recently got into watching Zoe 101, but I only watched it because apparently one of the cast from the first season left and then got replaced with Victoria Justice. Completely forgot about that part. But yeah, I went back and I watched it. And I was like, where is Victoria? But she was not in season 1.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the only like noticeable difference that I noticed from Zoe 101. It was nothing really, really hard, pressing that it was a change for me. But
Mhm.
girlfriend, my BET specials, I was like, what? This is completely different from what I remember. So yeah, for me, the BET specials were nostalgic, and I'm so happy
Mhm.
they put them back on Netflix because as an
They
adult, it's cracking. It's really
yeah.
good.
I mean, for sure. As you were just saying that, I was thinking about my choice, and you said like kid friendly. Mine was not kid friendly, and I'm just almost mind blown that we used to watch this type of stuff when
Mhm.
we were younger. But Bad Girls Club is for free on Tubi. So
Oh
I find
yeah, I've been binging,
yeah, binging, baby. So
binging.
watching like older seasons and looking back at it, I'm like, wow, we used to watch this, and then being able to see some of the women from Bad Girls Club and how they were versus how they are today is a complete like 360, which is like growth. So shout out to Bad
Right.
Girls from Bad
I
Girls
would hope
Club,
so.
Yeah. But there's like some people, I'm not gonna like throw any names, but there's just some people who is just like, wow, I'm not surprised you act like that. You still kind of act like that. But that's
Yeah.
it is what it is. But as I was watching it, I noticed that there was a lot going on from like racial, like if you watch older shows, like especially reality older shows, like the racial slurs or the like the lack of empathy for just a whole nother person and their experience, it was like blatant. Like
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able to get away with that type of stuff on TV now. Like you would get canceled or like it'll be all over social media. So a lot of these bad girls, if social media was to go ahead and binge watch Tubi and you pull out what they said on Bad Girls Club, I can almost promise you that it's like, wow, like you said this on TV, national TV.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah. When I went back and watched season 7 with Cheyenne, I said, "Oh girl, she don't want to go to black clubs, baby." Okay,
baby, I was just watching that.
Cheyenne. Yes, I was
Oh
just
wait,
watching it too.
no. I was just watching Natalie's season 4.
Oh
And
wow. Well, that was the older seasons, like
the
right before
older
season 5. Yeah, but that I
babe,
feel like that's when they were actually like working on themselves. After season 5, it just nuck if you buck, and it was
bruh,
no, it
bruh. Old girl
was World War
said, what
II.
was her name? They called her Malibu on the season. I can't really remember her real name.
I haven't
She was a
seen the
blonde,
season.
and so she says on there, she's like, I don't want to go to the club on, like, basically she didn't want to go on Black Night because the club was gonna be full of Black
Black
people.
Knight.
And she was like, I don't want to be around Black sweaty people. And then that's when Flo was like, you don't get sweaty, like
I don't remember this. I gotta go watch season 4 now. You don't get sweaty. I
yes.
love it.
Yes.
Oh
So
god.
if you, yeah, definitely Bad Girls Club. Looking back on that, it just shows like, wow, how you act on TV has changed significant, which says a lot when it comes to like our mental health area, like when it comes to mental health in general, which is something that is like super, super huge. And that's actually a big topic of our conversation. But
Mhm.
before we get further into the conversation and we're thinking about like nostalgia and we're thinking like blasting back to the past before we like continue on, it's making me think about Magic Mind and where we're at right now. So we've been doing 14 days of magic, making sure that we're taking this productivity shot and seeing what it does to us, to our bodies. And so, Jay, wondering for you, it's been 2 weeks, 14
Mhm.
days of magic.
Mhm.
How are you feeling with the second week?
I'm still feeling very aware, just like the first week. That's the second week was almost identical, but I can see me making, because of my awareness, me making small changes. But the awareness actually helped me to realize that small changes for me, I never saw them as changes. I always just kind of dismissed them. But now I'm starting to realize that I have to make small changes in order to make these big changes. So if it's just as tiny as literally, if maybe not waking up with the sun is my original goal, instead of beating myself up, maybe just waking up 5 minutes earlier than I would normally wake up so that I don't have to run out the house and heat breakfast up in the microwave. Or maybe it's just drinking water without my phone next to me or putting my phone on the opposite side of the room, because these small changes, those are what make habits. And that's what this 14 days has taught me, is just to evaluate where my life is right now and what are super tiny things that I can do to change them without trying to make this big goal and then beat myself up about it, because that's natural for us to do, to want to do. So these small changes have helped not beat myself up when I'm forgetting to wake up with the sun, because that one was the hardest one for me. Wake up with the sun. When I don't go to the gym 3 times a week, and when I don't, Duolingo was probably the easiest because I like doing it anyway. But when I don't feel or make time for myself to educate myself a little bit more, what can I do that might be super tiny, that is not as big of a lift when I don't have that motivation? Definitely has taught me that. So it's helped me to be more aware of my environment.
I agree. It's the same exact for me. Like being more aware, eye-opening. These 14 days have been so eye-opening to the areas of where I need to focus my attention. And maybe this is because that is something that the productivity shot is supposed to help with, is your attention and where you put it, and clarity and focus. And so I have a hard time with the distractibility, but outside of that, though, when it comes to knowing what needs to be done, these 14 days have shown me what I need to do, what needs to be focused on, what's more important. Is this more important than the other? So really paying attention to what my body needs. So the goals of mine that I set, it's hard for me to match up with those goals, but leaning into what you're saying with just showing yourself compassion and knowing that it's okay if you're not waking up with the sun, if you're not doing yoga every single morning. So I'm able to show myself that compassion in those areas and saying it's okay that you're not there. You're a step forward though, because you are acknowledging these places of what needs improvement and what needs attention right now. Because just because 2 weeks ago when we started this 14 days of magic, I might have thought that I need to wake up and do this every morning. I need to make sure that I'm journaling every day. I need to make sure that I'm checking in with my chakras. But the focus more so has helped me see, what do I really need? Like, do I really need to wake up early in the morning after I just went to sleep like a couple of hours ago because I was doing some paperwork for my job? Just focusing on that. And because I'm able to focus on that, it's able to take that weight off of myself of saying, oh my gosh, oh, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Because the only thing we're supposed to do is, like you said before, is to live, laugh, and die. Like you
Right.
said it
Stay black
before.
and die.
You've said it before, and I'll say it again here, because yes, like I don't have to do certain things. So I would say, yeah, that clarity and where I'm at, which goes into I wrote it down. It's the cordyceps mushrooms. That
was my answer too.
Twin them.
Winning.
Last week we were twinning them with the lion's mane. This week we're the twinning them with the cordyceps mushrooms. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but that definitely helped out when it came to clarity and focus of where I need to be placing it at. So that's kind of cool that we picked the same one.
For me, it was cordyceps mushrooms, but it was not for the exact same reason, because I would still say lion's mane in terms of my creativity and in terms of awareness. But that cordyceps mushroom, when I was looking through the ingredients list, I realized that it helped with inflammation post going to the gym, and it helped with stamina at the gym. And I was starting to realize, and I don't know if it's just because when I am working out now, I'm a little bit more focused on, like I said, those tiny goals. Like instead of trying to run on the treadmill for 10 miles, you can't run. Like let's not go from not running at all to running 10 miles,
Right.
But for the next 10 minutes, for the next 2 minutes, that's what I set myself as a goal, to just get through these next 2 minutes. I would set tiny goals literally on the treadmill. And after these 2 minutes, how do you feel, And I was seeing that my stamina within those 2 minutes was completely changed, being able to run on, level 5 or level 6 for those entire 2 minutes, get tired and get off and, evaluate what I'm doing, and then be able to get back on. Because sometimes, like when I first was starting out, it was like, okay, this 2 minutes is about to hop out. I'm about to run for my 2 minutes and I'm about to be done and do something else. But then it did help me to realize, like, I was gaining stamina. So other than the focus, it helped with that as well.
Okay. Yeah, so I did write down lion's mane with the creativity for me as well. My creative brain has been on go. So that's like huge. And then like the updates with my goals, yeah, it's pretty much the same. Just, being more aware of where to put that. And overall, if I was to put a sentence to my experience with 14 Days of Magic, I would say that it has been eye-opening on the
Mhm.
areas of where I need to be focusing my attention on more. So, yeah. Do you have a
Okay.
sentence? Do you have a sentence?
Hmm. I feel like it has shown me that little steps make a big difference.
I like that. Okay, so let's see. We all know that besties who heal together keep it real together. And so here's how you can participate in our 14 Days of Magic contest so that you can not only heal yourselves, but heal the environment. And so purchasing a Magic Mind subscription using our discount for Real 14 to get 20% off of your purchase. Step 2, film your journey of committing of yourself through your mind, body, and soul for the next 14 days and posting it to Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube using the hashtag 14 Days of Magic. Submitting the content to the 14 Days of Magic link in our description box. And on November 22nd, we will announce the winner of the contest based on your consistency, creativity, and impact. And so the winner will receive a 1 month subscription of Magic Mind. And most importantly, every view your content receives will be matched in cash that will be donated to the Amazon Rainforest Restoration Project, which we talked about before, how, the Amazon Rainforest is 20% of our oxygen here on Earth. And in the past, we haven't been doing very good when it comes to protecting our planet or making sure that we're not damaging the planet. It just hasn't been the best. So being able to work hand in hand with Magic Mind, who is trying to help out as well, it's just a huge, 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 huge thumbs up. And so, speaking about this normalization of how we haven't treated the Amazon rainforest or our Earth in general in the best way that we could have, how has trauma related experiences been normalized in the Black community, would you say?
Mm. For as I'm just gonna say, like, I'm not gonna pull up any sources or numbers or anything,
Mhm.
but just off of my personal experience and experiences that I've seen people who are close to me experience, a huge one. I'm trying to group it all together. But a big thing just in general is I guess sucking it up. Um like sucking up everything. And when I say that, I mean the your good and bad emotions. Well, I don't even say any emotion possible. Like any emotion possible. You don't want to be too happy because then you might make the next person jealous. You don't want to be too boisterous because then other people, you'll block out other people's light. Whatever, even if you're sad, you don't want to be too sad because then everybody around you is going to be sad. So I feel like we've normalized dimming ourselves down, watering ourselves down to make sure the other person next to you is okay a little too much. And I saw that in the Parkers and I saw that in Girlfriend and both shows. And so when I was going back and watching both shows, that's something that I really noticed in the Black community, not only in TV, but in our everyday lives, that I feel like we've taught and preached, and it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, unlike, things like whooping kids or things like that have been brought up to light a lot more now. I don't think we talk enough about the fact that we dim ourselves down, especially as Black women, so much to make other people feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you like pointed out like the TVs, like TV shows, movies, music, just jokes, jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Like people they'll say, "Oh, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's just comedy." And they say, "Oh, what makes it funny is that it's realistic." But the thing is that it's once again normalizing these experiences that are actually toxic and traumatizing, and they're not good for us at all. So,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
just thinking about that and how everything that you were just saying previously, how it's shown as on these TV shows, on these movies, and it's like, oh yeah, this is what happened, this is what's normal. And then when you see that somebody on the TV show is doing something that you might have done, or if you see somebody on the movie doing something or joking about something that you do that may not be healthy for you, then it's, oh, they do it too. So it must
Mm-hmm.
not be that bad because they're okay. Or
Yeah.
I got whoopings when I was younger and I turned out perfectly fine. So
Mm-hmm.
normalizing these experiences that are actually traumatizing. And
Right.
so kind of talking about like these traumatizing experiences and where it is crucial for us to pay attention to it is during childhood. It is within those first 18 years. And a lot of times we don't really notice how big of an impact trauma actually has on the first 18 years of life, which goes into this adverse childhood experiences. Being exactly what it says, adverse, the adversities, traumatic experiences, anything that's distressful, childhood, meaning that it happens within the first 18 years, and experiences being something that you've gone through. So, adverse childhood experiences, and how crucial it is for us to be aware of what that even is so that we know, okay, this is what my ACE score is. So, that's what we would call it, is ACE, adverse childhood experiences. Taking your ACE score so that you can be able to tell how vulnerable you might be to certain conditions or to certain things. And so I'm kind of going really fast because in my mind is racing right now. So that's just me being like very open right now. My mind is racing with thoughts because when it comes to trauma and when it comes to children, it's something I'm like really, really passionate about. And so my mind's like this, like this, like this. And it makes it, sometimes I feel like people know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna try to slow down because I might be saying things that people are not even familiar with. So I'm gonna slow it down and bring it back. And when I bring it back, I'm gonna bring it back to just going back to what adverse childhood experiences is and why it's so important and where it came from. So it came from a study back in the 90s, while ago. And when they originally did this study, actually, it was considering people that don't even look like us. And so if you see these numbers with people who don't even look like us, they were able to see a correlation or a connection between trauma and their health conditions. And they were able to see that, okay, so this person has gone through this amount of trauma and they have this health condition. Let's see if other people, if we see that consistency, and they found it, that it is consistent, that the more trauma that you go through, the more vulnerable you are or susceptible you are to certain health conditions, from like high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, heart conditions, lung conditions. It's just so many of them. And if you think about it, you think about stress, right? Like stress is a part of the adverse childhood experiences. When your body takes on stress, cortisol, it eats at your organs. It completely, that's how I envision it. I envision it as it eating. It deteriorates, it weakens. So it can weaken your heart. It can weaken your digestive system to the point where it's hard for you to digest food, where it's hard for you to be able to lose the weight, which leads to the obesity, which leads to the diabetes. So when you take all of these things into consideration and you know that the experiences that you have within the first 18 years, the higher the score, the more susceptible you are because of the stress levels that you took on to where it might take you in the long run in the future. Mm-hmm. And so slowing that down and talking about that, I'm gonna kind of like leave some room for Jay to speak, because I know I just gave like this like whole spiel on average childhood experiences. But Jay, like looking at that, thinking about that, I know one of the things we were gonna do was to look up our ACE score. So
yeah, I've had my ACE score tested before, maybe a couple years back, but I did go back and do it again because I completely forgot the number. But I am a number 3 on the ACE score test, which they say is intermediate risk. And I knew it would be kind of high just because obviously a huge one is loss of a parent, and that happened in my formative years. And just I understood that it would be somewhere, I would have something, but a lot of people look at me, and even I look at myself and say I had a great childhood. So, and I have. I'm not gonna let my ACE score determine my entire childhood. Obviously, we don't want anybody to feel like that as well. Like, just like I said with the Parkers, I can recognize it has some terrible, things. It's some terrible traits and qualities that we as a community need to work on. But it's also a great show, and it's also a hilarious show, and it also, has starred some of the biggest stars. So that goes back to show that just because this, the score, it means something. Don't take. I'm not trying to take away its effectiveness, but at the same time, it's not a blanket statement for all of my childhood, saying that my entire childhood was just a 3. No, giving it very much 100%. But I did have things that could have been worked on, and I did have traumatizing experiences that have shaped me to experience the experiences that I have in the future. And now I just have things to work on because of those experiences. So mine was a 3. And like I said, it has not shaped me one bit. I do know that sometimes people get their scores and it makes you a little sad or makes you feel a little different. But for me, I was for a second, not really sad, but just like, oh, wow, eye-opening, Mm-hmm. I didn't think that I was going to even be on there, but then I'm like, well, you do definitely have a parent who was a parent, so obviously, something happened. Yeah. But don't let it deter you from feeling like your childhood was wonderful, because I'm sure it was,
Yeah. And this being able to know your ACE score, it crosses the lines of sexuality, your race, your gender, your sex, your socioeconomic status. Trauma is seen in all areas. There's no running from it. So kind of what I was saying like earlier, where the study was done on people who don't look like us. This was done on like people, uh, Caucasian, middle class, white men. Like honestly, that's it. And to find that there was a significant amount of trauma within that population to the point where it was impacting their health conditions, which led later on to they were able to take all these different, it's 10 questions. They were able to take these experiences and break them down into 10 different experiences that a child may have gone through within their first 18 years. And then they'll say, okay, check, check, check for whichever, if it's a yes or a no. And so once they were able to do that, they came up with it and they were able to push it out into other communities where we were able to see the consistency even still within. So like you said, you were kind of surprised that you had that 3. I actually have a score of 4. So kind of surprised that you had that 3, and looking back and saying, but I had a really legit like childhood. So, and just knowing that even the ones who, yes, we had like really great childhoods and we can't really complain for much, just remembering that trauma doesn't escape us. Like it still happens, it's still there. And there's things on the ACE assessment that you may not even realize is trauma. And then not realizing how, as a child, you might have a parent who you don't know that they have depression, but you know that they're super down for periods of a time. And because they're super down, it might make you feel worried, stress, cortisol eats at the organs. So once again, that's what they're looking at. They're looking to see how high is that ACE score and what is it going to do? How vulnerable, how susceptible are you to health conditions in the long run? And kind of pulling out what we talked about, this normalization of trauma, and pulling it into this, talking about ACE score. There's trauma like the whoopings that happen in early childhood, where to me, I feel personally, which it kind of is, it's on there, but a lot of people who I assess for, being that I'm a therapist, so I use this assessment myself, but I'll use this assessment and they'll kind of say no, as it's a part where it asks about any physical harm. Has a parent or adult in your household caused any physical harm to you? And they word it in a way where it's like a slap, a hit, a this, a that. And so I'll hear them say, no, they never physically harmed me, but I got whoopings. So the whooping being normalized to the point that they don't realize that as a child, getting a whooping is physical harm. Like, but you've grown up to think now that it's normal and that these things are supposed to help you, that you don't realize that in your childhood brain and in your childhood body, that was stressful. So that was causing a significant amount of stress to go through your body. And when adults say, oh, well, it happened to me, so I know my kid's going to be okay, I could do it to them, just thinking about yourself and thinking about your health conditions and where your health is at, and the possibility of, oh, could that have come from that? And it's not to say that if you whoop your kids, they're ultimately going to have diabetes because you just whooped them, but it's to say that it puts them in a vulnerable state because cortisol does deteriorate your organs.
Yeah. Also, the point for that as well, you have to, what helped me was looking at the percentages. So like you said, it's not going to happen to me. I got whooped and nothing's wrong with me. Yeah. But your child you might be one of the percentages that nothing happened to. But what about that 60% who's dealing with alcoholism now? Or that 60% who's dealing with different mental health problems now? Right. Right. Exactly. You might not have been a part of it, even though, because it's a percentage. Just like any other sickness, it's a percentage. And you might drink and eat Flamin' Hots every morning and not have diabetes. And somebody might live a perfectly healthy life and had Flamin' Hots for breakfast one time and now has diabetes. It's our sex or STD, whatever. Yeah. There's a percentage, and you could be the lucky part of the percentage, but everybody's not. Yeah. And so you just saying that I whoop my kids, I was whooped, so I'm gonna whoop my kids. No, if you know better, then do better.
Right.
Exactly. Especially that's what the chart is for now that you're an adult, especially, and you have full control, like we talked about in the last episode, over your mental health. it's time for us to do something about it when it comes to children. Also, another thing I was thinking about was not only, well, I guess that I was already mentioning that not only does it affect, things that are internal inside your body, it affects people around you and the environment that we create in the future in terms of percentages for whatever your ACE score was.
Yeah. So that leads me to saying that if you're curious to know more about like ACE, adverse childhood experiences study, or even want to figure out what your ACE score is, we'll go ahead and make sure we leave that link in our description. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be on the description box. But if you're listening to this on any of the podcast streaming platforms, we'll make sure we list it in the description on there as well. So you'll be able to check out what your ACE score is and what that might mean for you. Like you said, Jay, you're in the intermediate. So you may be at risk for health conditions, more so than someone who has a 1. Meanwhile, I'm in the intermediate, touching the highs, because 4+ is touching the highs. So still puts me at a higher risk of being vulnerable or susceptible to certain things. And then for those, if you find yourself taking this assessment and you find yourself being high on the scale of like a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, remembering it, I always make sure I let my clients know this, is that these are experiences that have happened to you. They don't define you, they don't make you. They are experiences that have happened. And because of these experiences, they do have an impact on our bodies, because our bodies are, it's a body. Like it takes hits. And the point of it isn't to scare you or to make you worried or make you feel like, oh, I'm gonna get this, I'm more susceptible to these things. The thing is to bring the awareness around of it so that you know, okay, I'm a high score. So maybe I should be very careful about what I eat or my workout schedule. Maybe I should make sure I'm getting to a doctor to get checkups. Maybe I should make sure I check on certain things, and not just because the one thing is in the Black community is like, we'll just like kind of just let things go on for a long time, thinking that it's just going to go away on its own. But remembering, oh, my score is pretty high. I remember I could be susceptible. I could be vulnerable. My organs could be weaker than somebody whose organ is a 1 or ACE score is a 1. So it's not to define you, it's just to make you more aware so that you can take care of yourself, and to be aware of what this ACE is so that the children who are around us, we're making sure we're not normalizing these traumas, and we're making sure that we're making it very well known that this is not okay. And so that generationally we could see a difference and a change in how we go about certain things with children. I know of people who think that their child is sleeping, and that if their kids sleep and they're in the same room as them, they can have sex and like their kid won't know, but that's traumatizing. And so things like that, like being very aware of your actions and how that's impacting a little person's eyes, and not only just that, but their own body of experience.
Right. Another one, when you said that, I automatically thought, for me, when you mentioned the whoopings thing, I mean, I knew I got whoopings, but and I knew that, I know how that, and on a scale of abuse, I understand that obviously has its place. But for me, what I didn't think until after taking the test and seeing it in person is what we call snatching your kids up, or grabbing your kids' arms, or, inflicting pain. Well, I know for a fact when a lot of times when we're snatching kids up, it's safety. That's automatically what goes through our heads. But just taking time to maybe find new ways and find new strategies, or maybe that'll be your breaking point where you realize that I might need help raising my kid. I might need somebody to tell me what to do in situations where I'm scared that somebody will come and take my kid. Because I get it. Like, if I saw my kid running off, my automatic response to get over here, because I know what can happen. But maybe, finding ways so that now we know that that's a fear of ours. Where does this fear come from? And how can I make sure that my child is only number one, not experience that fear for themselves, but how can I make sure that I'm taking them out of that environment in a way that makes both of us feel safe.
Right.
Also with that, talking about generational trauma, we got to realize our grandparents watch our kids too. So, or elders, whatever, watch our kids as well. So it's not just you changing your behavior, but this is a stepping stone for a conversation that needs to be had with our parents. Without pointing the finger, without blaming, because it's not, like I said, love my mom to death, but I know she with me. I know I was in the kitchen getting tore up, okay? And I have no bad feelings, no bad feelings for either one of my parents. I understand that that's what they knew at the time and they did the best that they could. I'm not upset with them. So we need to find that forgiveness first and make sure that we're just not doing the same thing to our children. Like you said, it's not the end of the world. We're not going to say you're a bad parent because you put your hand, but we have to understand that that does cause trauma, regardless of if you think it doesn't, it does. And even if it's just a little bit of trauma, that little bit of trauma adds up and it builds on and it obviously adds to our score.
Yes.
And the larger your score is, the higher your percentages are for different type of diseases and different deteriorations of our bodies. And if we're going to keep our kids safe by taking them to the doctor, then we need to make sure that we keeping our baby safe in the house as well and doing everything that we can do for their mental stability.
And having this conversation goes far with like elders and other people. I'm sorry, my allergies are really kicking in right now. So my throat, my eyes, my face probably turning red. But
Ellie dying on camera.
Right. I am. I have a cat and her hair is everywhere. But okay. So I was gonna say though, when it comes to talking about this with elders or with adults, educating them on the psychological part of it as well as the body part of it, where how it impacts the mind and how it impacts your body, and knowing that this is important for us to all know. This episode right here is not meant for you to understand adverse childhood experiences. This is like us encouraging you to do your research or to look. There is Dr. I want to say Dr. Burke or Burnett, I forgot, but it's on YouTube. If you look up adverse childhood experiences TED Talk on YouTube, it's this Black woman. She's the very first person who introduced me to this topic. So watch that, educate yourself so that you can educate others within your space, within like your friend groups, your family, and so that they understand how crucial, how important it is to understand this impact of trauma and what that could look like to a child and how it impacts us later on in life. So yeah, that's what this is. It's just hey, go check it out.
Right. Heads up.
Heads up. Just a little push to go say, hey, go check this. Just do more research, look into it, and talk about it with your loved ones so that they understand how important it is. And if you don't feel as though there's a person, and this is, I stand firm by this, when you find yourself not feeling comfortable with certain people, you don't have to leave your kids with them. That's just that.
Honey.
And don't feel obligated to have to because they're family and they feel like I'm family. I should be able to see and spend time with my grandchild, with my niece, with my nephew, with my daughter. I don't care, because if they are going to ultimately cause significant trauma, and that's even with their words, even putting them down, even saying certain little things to children can trigger a thought in their head that is enough to cause trauma. So if there's a person in your life and you feel like they may say certain things, they might do certain things that you think might cause something, having conversation with them, and if they seem like they're not changing, then you don't have to have them around your kids. So that's period.
That's definitely period.
With that, we'll go ahead and make sure we leave those resources down below, and make sure that you are going ahead and following us on all social media platforms, and also make sure that you are giving us a big thumbs up, comment, like, subscribe to us on YouTube, and leave comments. Let us know, what is your ACE score? Or if you're not comfortable with leaving your ACE score, what is something that you didn't know from the ACE assessment that was considered something that could be traumatic? And let's start a conversation about it. Let's keep it going. And until next time, we will talk with you all next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.